So if you're not a SaaS company, but you want to become one, how do you actually engage the sales department and some of the other departments in this transformation process? So I just got off a call with a chief product officer from a company that does tens of billions of dollars in revenue across several hundred geographies in the world, mostly within hardware, but also within a lot of vast array of other services and products. And they want to do some SaaS products. And they have a big technological department that is helping them develop, let's say, operating systems for a lot of the hardware that they have, but they have no recurring revenue streams on some of these solutions. And they're starting to build that. So the chief product officer that I just talked to has this problem that when he pushes a software product into the market, and they just did a launch, he says, well, if we're lucky because it's so early stage, because the products that we're starting out with are so small, we will do a couple of million of revenue in this year one. But each of my geographies that I'm talking to, the general managers that are responsible for the P&L in those geographies are doing hundreds of millions. So the revenue that I bring with these new software products is just inconsequential. It isn't big enough. So they won't care. So if I start to talk about creating KPIs or building specific metrics for the SaaS products, or selling it in a certain way, or doing any of the things that is required to build a SaaS organization, the actual people who have to bring this to the customer don't care because it's just not that much money, right? So what happens usually is that you give it to sales, and sales, who isn't used to selling software, takes it and sells it anyways, or gives it away for free to the customer when they're buying a big hardware order or something of the similar sort. And then over time, what happens is that you have software in the market that is under monetized. So you're making maybe $10 million on a piece of software, but everybody knows, especially the ones that build the software in the product department, that you should be making 50. And not only that, the 10 million is closed on, let's say, hundreds of different versions of a contract, because sometimes it's given away free, sometimes it's given on one pricing model, sometimes it's given on another, sometimes with a discount, sometimes not, and so forth. So you have built up a lot of commercial debt because the sales department doesn't have any experience and doesn't have a framework for how to actually sell this, so they've just pushed it out. So in the beginning, you don't have the revenue to force sales, let's say, or to take an interest to actually build a process that will be scalable and function at scale. And then when you actually have some scale, it's too late, because sales then de facto build a process on their own that isn't really suited for SaaS anyways. So how do you do this? There's a timing issue or a relevance issue in larger organization that wants to build SaaS products or SaaS organizations. So one way I have found out is that, well, we need to involve the different parts of the organization in the SaaS launch. And the way to do it is, if you're standing from the perspective of product, is to say, well, we have built something and we want to take it to market. And we really want sales' input into the pricing model because, hey, you're going to sell it, right? So participate in this with us. And then together with sales and maybe with a few other stakeholders in the organization, you build a value proposition. So it's a solution with a pricing model on a contract framework, right? So those things together forms what the customer will have to say yes to. And then you run two kinds of validation. You run it internally with finance and customer success and every department that needs to touch this. You get all their feedback, and then you implement way better because they have had the ability to take a look at it before you launch. And you also validate it externally. You show it to customers, get feedback on what they think, you adjust, and so forth. So when you actually take it to market, you have had this opportunity through the process to actually talk about the SaaS product at length on how it will affect you across the organization and across the organization's boundaries. So between finance and support, and between support and sales, between sales and product, and so forth. So this is usually a really good way to just create a bit of internal momentum and understanding of what a SaaS product is, and then also keep that value offering in check for longer as you push it into the market, because sales actually owns it together with product in the way that is being launched, instead of just being given something that they then just change if they want to. So this is, in my perspective, a really good way to go from, let's say, 0 to 5 or 10 million with a SaaS product in a large organization without accruing all this commercial debt and having this big cleanup project later on. So, and you sell it as a validation process, right? You sell it as something we need to do in order to not step on a landmine and not get into trouble and actually sort of involve you and so forth. And it actually only requires a few champions from sales. You don't need the whole sales organization in. You don't need to go in and create, KPIs and top line metrics and develop a sales channel and just ruffle their feathers. Like, they can keep doing sales as they want to, but if you just get a few key stakeholders in to design this, they will own it. And then you'll handle all the friction in the internal validation interviews. You'll handle all the friction in the external validation interviews. And then you have a much higher chance of success. And it'll also go a lot faster. So it's all process. It's just a way that at least I have made it work in some of these large organizations, instead of coming in after the fact and then trying to clean up. So maybe you can use that as a template where you are. Okay, take care.